What's up, guys? It's Justin Stenstrom, the best-selling author of Elite Mind, and you're listening to the Elite Man podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk all about how to be bold and how being bold can change your life. I'm going to give you 7 ways to be bolder today, how to actually implement this into your life, and how to make drastic changes right away, and also the benefits of being bold and why this is so important in your life. If you get a moment, please do me a favor, a big favor, and go to iTunes, or Apple as it's called these days, and leave a quick review. It literally takes like 20 seconds to just leave a 5-star review if you can. If you love the show, maybe 4 if you don't absolutely love it. But either one of those would be phenomenal to really help out the podcast. Get seen more, improve some of the ratings. We'd had some poor ratings in the past, as I mentioned. People that really hated on the show a couple of years back when we covered some of the more controversial topics, which is fair, fair play to them, I suppose. But the podcast rating has gone down since that period of time. So if you can take just a moment, literally like 20, 30 seconds, and leave a review and just tell me what you like about the podcast or, some of the favorite episodes, anything like that really helps us out a ton and helps the podcast be seen to more people, which ultimately helps me get more content out to you. So really appreciate that if you can do it, as well as make sure you're following me on Instagram. So it's at Justin Stenstrom on Instagram. I'm posting all the time on Instagram on the stories, almost daily, pretty much every day. If I miss a day, it's the following day. As far as unique posts go for Instagram itself, little short videos of all kinds of tips, tactics, information, techniques. I'm becoming an elite man, and also follow me on Instagram. And also I wanted to mention the Elite Man Mastermind, which has now become Elite Man Brotherhood on Facebook. We just revamped the whole Facebook group, just relaunched it about a week or so ago. And so if you're not a member, go to facebook.com and you can type in Elite Man Brotherhood and it's going to pop right up. And if you're in the older group, you'll see too, the link is on the older group from Elite Man Mastermind. It'll take you right to the Brotherhood. But Elite Man Brotherhood, we're posting a lot more regularly in the group, a lot more engagement in the group. There's actually guys who are committed to the group who are posting all the time. And it's really cool. It's a lot better just, starting from scratch sometimes than to try to I suppose, inspire something that's already dead. If it's already gone, it's gone. But that other group fell off, which was great while it lasted years back, but we got a new group, and I'd love for you guys to join that. Elite Man Brotherhood is the place to go. That said, though, I want to talk about today's topic in this episode, which is being bold. And I got inspired by this specific topic a couple days back when I was watching a clip on YouTube of a Jordan Peterson talk where he's basically describing, I don't know what they call them, not zoologists, but something to that effect. The people, maybe biologists, I don't really know, but these people in Africa who were studying zebras, as it turns out, and he's got this like famous zebra story, and the story essentially goes that these guys were studying the zebras, and they wanted to keep, there was like a herd of them, maybe 10 of them or so, and they wanted to keep track of individual zebras so they could like study its mannerisms, characteristics, whatever people do when they study zebras. These guys were doing it. But they would like look up and they would see the zebras and they all look the same because they had the stripes. When they looked down to like write something, they would look up and they couldn't tell which zebra they were actually looking at. They couldn't identify what zebra it was they were studying. So one of the guys decided to paint the zebras red. And when they painted the zebras red, they could look down, they could look up, and they would know, if they painted that one specific zebra red, they knew that they were watching that one because the others obviously weren't red. But long story short, by doing this, these guys inadvertently singled out particular zebras who they were trying to study, and they noticed that, I don't know the exact time frame, but they noticed relatively quickly after painting them red, they would get eaten by lions. And that is, and Peterson goes on to describe the sort of phenomenon here, which kind of seems obvious too in hindsight, but the phenomenon is basically that the zebras have that biologically instinctual mindset, but also physiological makeup where they all have the same stripes. They're all black and white, and they have the same exact look because they all fit in and sort of blend in as a pack. And it makes sense too if you look at it across many different aspects of the animal kingdom. And particularly when it comes to humans, because honestly, that's all we really care about in this podcast is what we're talking about. But when it comes across the animal kingdom, animals tend to blend in and they don't want to stick out. So they essentially want to blend in as a survival mechanism because it's safer to be among the pack than it is to be a lone sort of wolf when you stick out. And inadvertently, these guys were making that zebra stick out. And because it had red on it instead of just black and white, it was sticking out basically like almost like a peacock would, or sticking out like a sore thumb. And it was easily targeted by the lions, who could then see it very easily and identify it as a lone zebra, and they went over and attacked it and killed it. But the moral of the story, as Peterson describes it, is essentially that humans have this. We obviously don't have black and white, black stripes on us and black and white colors only. But we do have, sort of as a survival mechanism, the instinct to not want to stick out, to not want to say peacock, to not want to be loud and expressive and be bold, which is the theme of today's episode. We have the innate instinctual desire to want to just simply fit in with the rest of the crowd and simply just blend in, because purely as a survival mechanism, it's much, much safer to do so. It's much safer to live your life just blending in with the crowd. If you stick out and you're the one who sticks out and stands out from the rest of the crowd, you're the one who's going to get attacked first, or maybe the only one who gets attacked at all. And so he even says something like, that's why Canadians don't like, he's from Canada, that's why Canadians don't like to, to stick out, to be bold. We like to sort of blend in with the crowd. And purely as a survival mechanism, it's actually a really smart thing. And purely if you're trying to live your life as someone who just wants to stay out of trouble, who doesn't want to get into any fights, who doesn't want to be risky, who wants to live a risk-averse life, who wants to live a very safe and comfortable life, that's the way to go. Like, that's the philosophy. There it is for you. Just blend in. Don't speak up. Don't say your piece. Don't say things that's on your mind. Don't say things that you really want. Don't go after things that you really want, because all of those things exposes you to some sort of tangible, real-life risk. And so, going back to the theme of today's episode, if you don't want to have risk in your life, that's definitely a philosophy to live by. But as an elite man, I know you, and I've been doing this now for many, many years, and I know that you listen to podcasts like this one here because that's not the type of person that you are, and that's not the type of life that you want to live. Instead, I know you as someone who wants to go after the things that they want in life, who wants to be sort of a risk taker, who wants to take action, who wants to be more confident in themselves and their ability to go after the things that they want, and ultimately someone who wants to be bold. And that's the importance of doing all those things, is you acquire the things that you want in life when you are bold. And unfortunately, that isn't for everybody. And unfortunately, that does lead to some risk. That does lead to some failures. That does lead to potentially your life having times when you fall on your ass. It leads to times when you're left all alone. It leads to times of isolation. It leads to times of fear. It leads to times of anxiety. It leads to times of uncertainty and unknown. But that's also the price that you pay for greatness. It's also the price that you pay for being elite. It's also the price that you pay for having the best possible fucking life you could imagine, and not just being a regular, ordinary citizen. On this podcast, we don't want average. On this podcast, average sucks. On this podcast, we don't want to just fit in and blend in with the crowd, and we don't want to just have an ordinary, safe life. We want to have the best life possible. We want to have an elite life. And again, that's really what it's all about. Elite Man Podcast. That's what it's about, my friends. It's about being an elite man and standing the fuck out and doing what you want in your life to create the life that you really desire. Okay, and so that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you 7 ways to be bolder. I don't know if it's more bold or bolder, but either way, you know exactly what I mean. and they both work. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about 7 tips. I got a jotted list of notes here that you can effectively start using right away in your life to be more bold. And real quickly too, here's the benefits of being more bold in your life. It's number one. I got a few lists of these as well, but I'm going to dive into the actual list in a moment of ways you can be more bold. But some of the benefits of being bold include enhanced decision-making. Boldness allows you to be more decisive in your choices and stop overthinking as much. People that aren't bold, they tend to overthink every little thing, and they're very indecisive. So they'll just like every little task throughout the entire day, it's just like thinking a million things over. What could go wrong? Oh, what if I do this? I don't know about that. And even picking out their shirt in the morning can be incredibly hard for a lot of people because they're not bold, because they don't have this bold action. They don't take action, and they sit there and, think gray shirt, white shirt, black shirt. I don't know. Like, what if I picked the wrong shirt and in 3 hours from now I regret it? And it's like every single thing all day long is just a bunch of bullshit that adds up in your head. You end up overthinking, overanalyzing every single choice. That's the simplest of choices you could possibly make. Gray shirt, white shirt, black shirt. Pick a fucking shirt. They're all essentially the same. And by the way, I have a pretty basic wardrobe. I think the word is monochromatic, where it's like for a reason I have pretty basic colors and I just grab one, and they all look essentially good, essentially the same if they're all fitted well, which they are. They're all basically going to do the exact same thing. So I try to minimize the amount of choices, especially small things like that in my life, whenever possible. Make it as simple as possible, and then you just take action. And by being bold, it enhances your ability to take drastic action right away and not overthink things. So also you get the benefit of increasing your confidence. When you start to become bold, when you adopt this mindset, you become more confident in yourself because you see that you're okay making these decisions and making them drastically and right away, and that everything works out in the end. You're not sitting there, 3, 4, 5 hours later, in anxiety and stress because you picked a black shirt instead of a gray shirt, or because you ate the wrong meal in the morning instead of the right meal, or because you didn't work out when you thought you should have worked out, or, you did the wrong workout in your set and, you should have did one extra set of curls. It's like every little thing that you're doing, you're overanalyzing. But when you start to just take action and be okay with those actions, you get more confidence in yourself. I don't know who actually said the quote, but I remember Elliot Hulse saying one time, many years back when I interviewed him, that successful people don't always make the right decisions or make the right choices, but they make their choices right. You pick the wrong shirt, you pick the wrong workout, you pick the wrong meal to eat, you make that decision right. And these are small things. By the end of the day, you can correct those, or by the next day, or the day after that, within 48 hours, you can make the right correction and fix all these, mistakes, as you could call them, and get back on track. And these are just, again, minimal things. But when you start doing the minimal things, it progresses to the bigger things. And no matter if it's a bigger or a smaller thing, successful people always make the decisions right. They don't make the right decisions. They don't have a Nostradamus-like projection into the future where they can tell everything that's going to happen, it's going to work out well. But even in the moments of picking the wrong things, they can still make those decisions work and make them right. So stop worrying about them. The other thing is with enhanced boldness is, overcoming the fear of failure. So you start to become more fearless when you're more bold, obviously. But it helps you in the same sense. When you become more confident, you become less or more fearless, I should say. And so that helps as well. You also become more innovative, more creative, those types of things, because bold individuals are more likely to think outside the box and also be willing to sort of go out on a limb and do unconventional things, whereas people that are shy, where they're more comfort zone bound, they tend to want to stay away from being creative and getting outside the boxes. They fear that type of thing. Being bold also improves your influence and persuasion, obviously, as well. You get more authority. People look up to you. People look up to bold, confident people. And if you're one of these people who's doing things all the time with a certain confidence, with certain boldness, people are going to start gravitating towards you. It's incredibly attractive, especially for the opposite sex. But even for men, for leading other men, you have to be a bold leader. Also helps with resilience building as well. Being more bold fosters a greater resilience in you, and it can help you navigate setbacks and help you become stronger as well mentally, which is a key thing. And then, of course, the last thing is accelerating your growth, whether it's in a specific area or whether it's like personal area or whether it's actually in a professional setting. Being bold is one of the cornerstones to mastering your performance. And everybody loves the guy who's bold and actually pulls things off. I'm not talking about just being recklessly bold, but I'm talking about being calculating and being bold at the same time. Again, we gravitate towards people who are confident, who assume the authority in the room that needs to be assumed. We're all looking to someone to lead the group and to lead the rest of us. And if you're going to be that bold guy, you're going to get that promotion, you're going to get that raise, you're going to get that authority in the room where people are looking up to you, and you're the guy leading them, and you're the guy ultimately making the decisions and then ultimately making more money because you fit into that role. So let's dive right into actually how to do this type of thing. Step number 1 is to embrace discomfort. Boldness grows when you step outside of your comfort zone, regularly pushing yourself to take on challenges that make you uncomfortable, whether that's speaking up in meetings or trying new approaches or just simply pursuing difficult, challenging goals that you previously could never do. So embracing discomfort is critical. You have to be okay being uncomfortable. You have to be okay being not okay temporarily. It's frightening, it's scary, it's anxiety provoking, but only initially. When you fully embrace this role, when you fully decide that you're going to take on this new attitude, this new embodiment of being a bold man, the anxiety is only temporary. It's very fleeting. It's like when you try something, it's like initially the first couple of seconds, maybe a minute, it's stressful, it's anxiety provoking. But once you're in it and you're actually in that role, it just dissipates. It's actually an unbelievable feeling, an unbelievable sort of phenomenon of anxiety just going away once you assume that role. It's kind of like there's boldness, there's confidence, just kind of like waiting for people to like go up and grab it. And yeah, when you first grab it, it's like, whoa, this is like a weird feeling. It's like you kind of feel out of place. But once you grab it and you assume it as your own, you own it. And once you own it, you're that man. You're that kind of guy. And you just take that over and over again into every aspect of your life, and you become that guy. You become a bold man. You just carry that throughout your life. It's incredible. But the first step is really embracing the discomfort of it all, or the stress of it all. Number 2, taking calculated risks. So again, I'm not telling you to be foolishly bold. I'm not telling you to be recklessly bold, but taking calculated risk, really assessing the potential risk versus the rewards in certain situations when taking bold action makes sense, or possibly when it may not make sense. Like if you're challenging your boss, for instance, and you're like the new guy, probably not a good idea to be bold in that situation. But if you've been at a company for a while and you haven't been the one to speak up in certain meetings, but you have a good idea, you have a good plan, take action. Be the guy who stops sitting back and letting everybody else lead, or letting the guy to the left or the right of you get the promotion because he's the guy who typically speaks up and has the good ideas. Take action and be bold, because your idea probably is better than that guy's idea, because you've been using your mind and your tools and your inner resources a lot more than someone who's probably naturally louder and more outgoing than you. You're more of the analytical type, but because of this, you've been able to foster a greater plan and a greater idea and a greater setup of the idea over a long period of time. And it just comes down to you simply speaking up and expressing that idea and being bold, where if they can hear that idea out, they can hear what you're saying, they can hear you speak it firmly and confidently, you're going to be the one, again, getting the raises, getting the promotions, getting the next opportunity, because you're being bold. So in those situations, it makes sense. But it's all about taking the calculated risk. Again, you don't want to be foolishly or recklessly doing this, measuring out your life and taking really a scan of all the opportunities you're missing out on, and then calculating in those opportunities whether it makes sense and whether it doesn't. And oftentimes, honestly, the overwhelming majority of times, it does make sense to be bold. But there are certain cases where it doesn't, and you can't be bold right away. And I don't recommend being foolish. The third way, though, is to practice decisiveness. So make your decisions quickly and with confidence, even when faced with uncertainty. The more you practice making decisions without second guessing yourself, the bolder you'll become. And I mentioned this a moment ago, so I won't harp on this again, but it is incredibly important to make a decision and then stick with it, and to not second guess it throughout the day. The more you're second guessing it, the more you're living in anxiety land, the more you're living in, building up stress in yourself and then worrying about, did I make the right decision? And then that carries on to the next thing that comes up. And then, next thing you know, you're back to second guessing everything. You're back to not being bold, and you're back to just building more stress and anxiety in your life. So practice being decisive. Start small. Start with small things. Be decisive. Be bold in these small actions, like picking out a shirt, picking out your meal, picking out a workout, picking out the sets that you're going to do, whatever it is. Small actions, starting small, and being very decisive in these things and not second guessing it. Once it's done, it's done. Move on to the next thing. But start small. Start doing these things in your life over and over again. You're going to find that the boldness is starting to build up in you. So then, later down the road, maybe a couple of weeks from now, when it comes time for that big meeting or that opportunity to get that promotion or that interview, whatever it is that you're looking for, you're building these things up and you're ready to be incredibly bold and just step into that role, even if you never thought you could before. Start small and work your way up. The fourth way is to challenge negative thoughts. Boldness often falters due to self-doubt or fear of failure. Counteract these negative thoughts by focusing on positive outcomes and reframing the failures as learning opportunities. This is a really good NLP technique of challenging your negative thoughts, and I tell clients this all the time. It's essentially like take an inventory throughout the day of all the times that you're having negative thoughts. A lot of guys, believe it or not, we have about 60,000 thoughts or so throughout the day, and approximately 90, I forget the number, 80, I think it's 80 to 90%. I think it's 80% actually of the 60,000 thoughts are negative. And 95% of the thoughts that we have every day are just reoccurring thoughts. So basically, the thoughts that we have today, the 60,000 thoughts that we have today, 95% of those are the same thoughts that we had yesterday, and they're negative or neutral thoughts. I think about 80% of them or so. But the point is, if you're someone who's always having negative thoughts, if you're always negatively thinking, you're always having these like negative doubts pop in your head, start taking you can journal this as well. You can just journal like every single time. You take a note of every single time you're having a conscious negative thought. And then what you're supposed to do now is simply change those negative thoughts into positive thoughts. Instead of things like I can't, or I don't know if I can, or I don't know if I'm good enough, or self-doubt, like I don't know if I'm able to do this, or I don't know if I'll be able to do that. Instead of those things, just change those thoughts over and over again in your mind to positive ones. Say, I am capable, I can do this, I will do this, I am good enough. All those things over and over again. Doing this over and over again in your mind consciously as you go throughout the day can positively influence your conscious mind, but also your subconscious mind, which is being programmed by these 60,000 thoughts that you have a day. Whether you know it or not, your subconscious mind is taking inventory on its own, and it's programming a lot of negativity and self-doubt. So if you can go through this exercise and just simply track all the times that you're being negative in a journal, and then consciously change those into literally writing them down into positive thoughts, positive thoughts in your head of you being capable, of you being confident, of you being bold. This over time, it's going to suck in the beginning because it's a little tricky. It's a little hard in the beginning because it's exhausting doing this a lot. But the more you do it in the beginning, the easier it becomes after a few days of starting to do this. You're just going to consciously start being more positive in your thinking. And after like a few days, it becomes more routine. And after about a week or so, you're thinking more positively all the time. And you're just constantly automatically reframing these negative self-thoughts into positive thoughts. The other thing, so number 5 is, the next step is setting audacious goals. So being bold in your goal setting is incredibly good. Push yourself by setting goals that are challenging yet attainable. When you aim higher than usual, you build the courage to take bold steps towards achieving them. So again, like I'm not talking about being reckless here, but I am saying that you should push the bar as much as possible. Set yourself up high. Set yourself up for something that you think you could possibly achieve, but something that you've kind of been scared of going after. Set the bar high, and even if you fail, you're going to be somewhere along the lines of hitting that goal. And in the process, you're going to be building up that confidence. You're going to be building up that boldness. You're going to be building up your ability to just step outside the comfort zone, go after life, and take life on head on, and not be afraid of failing. And if you do fail in the process, you get right back up, because guess what? That's what a bold man does. That's what an elite man does. We fail all the time. As I mentioned in the very beginning of the episode, you can be someone who stays in the comfort zone, who stays in the safety of being in the crowd and getting lost in the crowd. Or you can be a bold man. You can be an elite man who takes chances, who goes after life, who sometimes does fall and fail, but someone who gets up every single time and keeps going forward, because ultimately you get what you want. You don't stop. You don't quit. You don't quit on yourself, and you don't give up on your hopes and your dreams and your aspirations, because as a bold man, as an elite man, that's what you're all about. And ultimately, you create the life you want. Ultimately, you create the job you want, the wife you want, the money that you're making, the family that you want, the car that you want, the house that you want. You create all these things that you've always dreamed about because you have this bold mindset. And most people will never have those things, because most people just want to fit into the crowd and be an average Joe. And that's okay. If you want to be an average Joe, go for it. But as an elite man, I don't want to be an average Joe, and I know you don't want to be an average Joe. So set these goals, and don't be afraid of failing, because that's going to be inevitable along the way. Just pick yourself up, set the next goal, and keep on going forward. Step number 6, take action despite your fear. So again, being bold comes with fear. We all have fears. We all have these things that are holding us back. We all have things that are basically stopping us from going after the things that we want in life. The fear of failure, the fear of being judged by others, the fear of looking like an idiot and falling down and, having setbacks. All of these things can contribute to us not taking action in life. But you got to get past that. If you want to be a bold, successful man, if you want to create the life that you want, you got to stop being afraid of the fear. Take action. Stop being afraid of that fear that's holding you back, or the stress and the anxiety surrounding that potential outcome, or the fear of failure itself. Again, embrace that. We're all going to fail at some point in our lives. The people who get up and aren't afraid of that fear and get up after failing are the ones who go on to be successful at some point. And you will be. You just can't quit. The last thing, step number 7, is surrounding yourself with bold people. This is incredibly important. I've talked about this over and over again in the past. Jim Rohn said it best. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. If you start surrounding yourself with bold people, bold men, you're going to inevitably become more bold yourself. You're going to inevitably become more confident and have those people rub off on you, and have those people just literally lighting you up every single day, because you want to be more like them. You see the successes that they have. You see the people that they influence. You see the people that gravitate towards these people because they're more attractive people. We all gravitate towards these bold people. Find yourself some really good people to surround yourself, whether it's mentors or coaches or friends or family members who just have incredible boldness and take life by the horns and go after it. Because the more you surround yourself with these people, the more time you spend with these bold people, especially men, these bold men, the bolder you're going to be yourself, and the more inspired you're going to be bold and take action and to go after life and to create the things that you want to create in this life as an elite man. Because as an elite man, you deserve it, and nothing makes me more happy than seeing you reach your goals. But that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Again, follow me on Instagram at Justin Stenstrom, posting daily on there. Leave a review on Apple if you can. Really, really, truly helps me out a ton, helps the podcast out, helps us get shown a lot more. And last thing is join the Facebook group on Facebook, Elite Man Brotherhood. Take care, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.